The moment I walked into my sister Madison's house party, something felt wrong. My stomach churned as her college friends looked at me with strange smiles. Standing in line for the bathroom, 3 girls suddenly pushed me inside, slamming the door behind us. They pressed me against the cold tile wall, their faces twisted with cruel enjoyment. "Nobody will believe you anyway," they sneered. Through the cracked door, I saw Madison watching her laughter cutting deeper than their hands. When I finally escaped and found my mother, she barely looked up from her wine glass. "Don't make a scene, Hazel. It's Madison's special night." I woke up Sunday morning with purple bruises blooming across my upper arms and a sharp pain when I touched my swollen lip. The mirror showed me what I already felt. My ribs ached where Ashley had shoved her elbow into them, and my wrists bore the marks from Brittany's grip. Every movement reminded me of those terrifying minutes locked in that bathroom. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of coffee and pancakes. Madison sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through her phone, looking fresh and innocent in her silk pajamas. Our mother, Grace, bustled around preparing food, chattering about the graduation ceremony next week and all the relatives who would attend. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Grace said without really looking at me. "I made your favorite blueberry pancakes." I slid into my chair, wincing as my bruised ribs protested. "Mom, about last night." "Oh, honey, wasn't it wonderful? Madison's friends are such accomplished young women. Ashley just got into Harvard Law, you know." Madison glanced up from her phone with a small smile playing on her lips, the same lips that had curved into laughter while I was cornered and frightened. "Mom, I need to show you something." I tried again, rolling up my sleeve to reveal the bruising. Grace barely glanced over. "Hazel Marie, you really need to be more careful. You've always been so clumsy. Remember when you fell off your bike last summer?" "This wasn't from being clumsy," I said firmly. Madison's phone buzzed. She read the message and giggled. "Oh my God, the girls are so funny," she said, typing rapidly. I felt my phone missing from my pocket. Strange. I distinctly remembered having it when I arrived at the party. Must have dropped it somewhere in that house during the chaos. "Has anyone seen my phone?" I asked. "You probably left it somewhere silly," Grace said dismissively. "You can look for it later. Madison, tell me more about the marketing firm. When do you start?" As they launched into discussion about Madison's bright future at Preston Marketing Associates, I gave up trying to be heard. I excused myself and went to the living room, borrowing Mom's laptop to check if I could track my phone. Logging into social media felt like stepping into a nightmare. There I was, tagged in multiple photos from the party. Ashley, Brittany, and Chloe had posted pictures where I looked disheveled and frightened with captions like, "When the baby sister can't handle college parties," and "Some people just don't belong." The comments below were even worse, strangers laughing at my obvious distress. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the humiliation. How many people had already seen this? My college friends, high school classmates, extended family members who followed Madison. Then I noticed something in my old email account. An anonymous message sent at 3:47 a.m., no subject line. My cursor hovered over it for a moment before I clicked. One attachment, a video file. My heart pounded as I downloaded it, making sure the volume was low. The thumbnail showed a dimly lit hallway. I pressed play. The video was crystal clear. There was the bathroom door, and there was me being pushed inside by the 3 girls. The camera angle caught everything through the gap under the door and the reflection in the hallway mirror. You could see their faces clearly as they shoved me around. You could hear their voices threatening me, telling me I was pathetic, that no one would care what happened to Madison's irrelevant little sister. And then Madison appeared in frame, looking through the cracked door. Her laughter was unmistakable as she watched her friends terrorize me. The video even caught her saying, "Make sure she knows her place," before walking away. 37 seconds of footage that changed everything. Proof that I wasn't crazy or overdramatic. Evidence that this really happened. But who filmed this, and why did they send it to me anonymously? I quickly forwarded the video to my personal cloud storage, creating multiple backups. My hands shook as I realized what I held. This was validation that my pain was real, that the violation I experienced wasn't something I imagined or exaggerated. From the kitchen, I heard Madison's bright laughter mixing with Mom's approving chatter about her successful daughter's future. They sounded so happy, so normal, as if last night never happened, as if I wasn't sitting here covered in bruises, holding evidence of an assault they wanted me to pretend didn't exist. I closed the laptop and hugged my knees to my chest, ignoring the protest from my injured ribs. Everything had changed in the span of those 37 seconds. The question now was, what would I do with this truth? My fingers wouldn't stop trembling as I watched the video for the 5th time, memorizing every detail. The timestamp showed 11:23 p.m., the way Ashley's face contorted with cruelty as she grabbed my shoulders, how Brittany's perfectly manicured nails dug into my wrists, Chloe's sneer as she blocked the door, and Madison, my own sister, treating my terror like entertainment. I saved the file under 3 different names in separate folders, emailed copies to 2 backup addresses, and even uploaded it to a private cloud server I'd used for school projects. Something told me I'd need every copy I could make. The sound of Grace's voice on the phone drifted in from the kitchen. "Yes, Aunt Dorothy, we're so proud. Preston Marketing is one of the top firms in the city. Starting salary is $70,000, can you believe it?" This was my moment. Video evidence in hand, I walked back to the kitchen where Madison now sat painting her nails a delicate rose gold. The normality of the scene made my stomach turn. "Mom, I need you to look at something right now," I said, setting the laptop on the counter. Grace covered the phone's mouthpiece with irritation. "Hazel, I'm talking to Aunt Dorothy about the graduation party arrangements. Can't this wait?" "No, it can't wait. Please, just 2 minutes." Madison didn't even look up from her nails. "God, Hazel, why do you always need attention when something good happens for me?" "Aunt Dorothy, I'll call you back," Grace said with exaggerated exhaustion. She hung up and turned to me with crossed arms. "This better be important." I opened the laptop and clicked play. For 37 seconds, the kitchen filled with the sounds of threats, shoving, and mocked cries for help. Grace's expression shifted from annoyance to something harder to read. When it ended, silence stretched between us like a taut wire. "Well," I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Grace closed the laptop with a decisive click. "Where did you get this?" "Someone sent it anonymously. But Mom, you can see what they did to me. You can hear them threatening me. And Madison was watching. She was laughing." "Enough." Grace's voice cut through my words like a blade. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I won't have it." "Game, Mom, look at my arms." I pushed up my sleeves again, showing the purple-blue bruises in the shape of handprints. Madison finally looked up, her expression one of practiced concern. "Mom, I think Hazel might need professional help. She's been struggling with jealousy issues for years, and now with my graduation and job offer." "I'm not jealous." The words came out louder than intended. Grace's face flushed red. "Lower your voice. The neighbors don't need to hear your dramatics." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Do you have any idea what you're trying to do? Madison has worked her entire life for this opportunity. She has student loans to pay a career to build. And you want to destroy all of that because some girls played a harmless prank." "Harmless. They assaulted me." "They were drinking. Girls get silly at parties. You're making a mountain out of a molehill because you can't stand that Madison's life is taking off while you're still figuring yours out." Madison stood, placing a gentle hand on Grace's shoulder. "Maybe we should look into therapy options for her. Dr. Brennan has good reviews for treating personality disorders." "I don't have a personality disorder." I felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. "Sweetheart," Madison said in a voice dripping with false sympathy, "this attention-seeking behavior is really concerning. Remember when you claimed Tommy Bryant was bullying you in 10th grade, and it turned out you just didn't like that he was dating my friend?" "That's not what happened, and you know it," I said through gritted teeth. Grace shook her head slowly. "I'm calling Dr. Brennan first thing Monday morning. This has gone too far." I grabbed the laptop, clutching it to my chest. "I have proof. You saw the proof." "What I saw," Grace said coldly, was a grainy video that could have been edited, taken out of context, or God knows what else. What I know is that my daughter is about to start her professional life, and I won't let your petty jealousy ruin that. I stood there looking between my mother and sister, realizing with crystal clarity that they would never take my side. Madison could have stabbed me in front of Grace, and somehow it would be my fault for bleeding on the carpet. Without another word, I turned and walked upstairs, each step feeling like a mile. Behind me, I heard Madison's voice, soft and concerned. "I'm really worried about her mom. Maybe we should hide the kitchen knives." Grace's response chilled me to the bone. Whatever it takes to get through graduation without incident. After that, if she wants to continue this behavior, she can do it somewhere else. In my room, I locked the door and immediately forwarded the video to my personal email, again adding a detailed written account of everything that happened. As I typed, my laptop dinged with a new message. Another anonymous email. My heart raced as I opened it. They did this to 3 other girls: Sarah Chen, Emma Rodriguez, Jessica Williams. I have proof of everything. Meet me at the coffee shop on Maple Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. Don't tell your family. I stared at the message, reading it over and over. 3 other girls. This wasn't just about me. Madison's friends had done this before, and someone had been documenting it. For the first time since the assault, I felt something other than pain and fear. I felt the stirring of righteous anger. If my family wouldn't believe me, maybe it was time to find people who would. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I would learn just how deep this cruelty went. The Maple Street coffee house hummed with typical Monday afternoon energy. Students typed on laptops. Business people grabbed quick espressos, and the espresso machine hissed its familiar rhythm. I chose a corner table with clear views of both entrances, my nerves making me hyper-vigilant. At exactly 2 p.m., Tyler Morrison walked through the door. I knew Tyler, of course. Madison's boyfriend of 2 years, the quiet computer science major, who seemed to fade into the background at every gathering. Tall and lanky with perpetually messy brown hair, he never quite fit with Madison's glossy crowd. Now I understood why he'd looked so uncomfortable at every party. He ordered a black coffee and slid into the seat across from me, pulling out his laptop immediately. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly, his eyes darting around the coffee shop. "I wasn't sure you would." "You filmed the video," I said. It wasn't a question. Tyler nodded, opening his laptop. "I've been documenting everything for 6 months. Started when I witnessed what they did to Sarah." His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up organized folders. "I couldn't stand by anymore after Saturday night." "Why didn't you stop them?" The question came out more accusatory than intended. His face crumpled slightly. "I tried once. Madison threatened to tell everyone I'd been abusive to her. She said she'd ruin my life, get me expelled. She had bruises on her arms from where she'd grabbed the car door, but she said she'd tell people I did it." He turned the laptop toward me. "So I started collecting evidence instead." The screen showed meticulously organized folders, screenshots of group messages where Ashley, Brittany, and Chloe planned their initiations, videos from various angles at different parties, photos of injuries on other girls, documented timelines of events. "Sarah was first," Tyler explained, clicking on a folder. "She was dating Brittany's ex. They cornered her at a Halloween party, locked her in a closet for 2 hours. When she tried to report it, her parents got a call from someone claiming to be from the dean's office saying Sarah had been caught with drugs. It was fake, but her parents pulled her out of school." My stomach churned as he showed me Sarah's story, then Emma's. She'd been assaulted in a parking garage after refusing Chloe's advances toward her boyfriend. Jessica's attack happened during a study group that turned into an ambush. Each time Madison orchestrated it, Tyler said, showing me text messages. She picked the victims, planned the attacks, managed the cover-ups. The other 3 were her weapons, but Madison was always the brain. "How long have you known?" I asked. "Too long," he admitted, shame coloring his features. At first, I thought Madison's stories were true, that these girls were problematic, but patterns emerged. She always targeted women who threatened her somehow. Prettier, smarter, more accomplished, or just happier. He showed me a group chat where Madison analyzed potential targets like a predator studying prey. My name appeared 3 weeks ago. Sister needs to learn her place. Getting too confident, too pretty. Time to remind her she's nothing. Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them away. I need copies of everything. Tyler had already prepared a USB drive. Everything's here. Videos, screenshots, dates, times, witness information. Sarah, Emma, and Jessica all agreed to speak out if someone else came forward first. They're scared but ready. Why didn't you go to the police yourself? A man accusing 4 popular women of assault without a direct victim willing to speak. He shook his head. But now you have the evidence and the motivation. Your video is the clearest proof yet. I plugged the USB into my laptop, verifying the files were all there. The evidence was overwhelming. What about Madison? If I use this, she'll know you gave it to me. I'm done protecting her, Tyler said firmly. I've already moved my stuff out of our apartment, filed paperwork to transfer schools. Whatever happens, I can't be part of this anymore. As we prepared to leave, Tyler grabbed my wrist gently. Be careful. Madison's more dangerous than you know. Last year, a professor gave her a C on a paper. Suddenly, anonymous allegations about inappropriate behavior with students surfaced. He was suspended pending investigation. Madison changed her grade during the chaos. You're saying she destroyed a professor's career over a grade? The allegations were dropped eventually, but the damage was done. He left teaching. Tyler stood. Madison doesn't just hurt people. She destroys them systematically. We walked toward the exit together, and I felt the weight of the USB drive in my pocket like a loaded weapon. As I pushed open the door, I froze. Robert's silver Honda sat across the street, engine running. My father was behind the wheel, cell phone pressed to his ear, eyes scanning the coffee shop entrance. Tyler saw him too. Back door, he whispered, guiding me through the coffee shop toward the rear exit. But it was too late. Robert had spotted me. I saw him end his call and exit the car quickly. We rushed through the back door into an alley, Tyler's car parked just around the corner. Get home safe, Tyler said urgently. Upload everything to multiple clouds. Share it with people you trust outside your family. Document every interaction from now on. I nodded, clutching the USB drive. As Tyler drove away, I heard Robert's voice calling my name from the front of the building. I took a different route home, my mind racing with the magnitude of what I now possessed. 3 other victims, systematic abuse, a pattern of destruction, and at the center of it all, my sister, Madison, the golden child who could do no wrong in our mother's eyes. The evidence burned in my pocket, waiting to expose the truth. But first, I had to face whatever my father had been sent to accomplish. Robert's car pulled into the driveway just minutes after I arrived home. I'd barely had time to hide the USB drive inside an old jewelry box before he walked through the front door, his face a mask of forced calm. Hazel, we need to talk, he said, jingling his car keys nervously. Get in the car. I'd rather talk here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Your mother thinks a drive would be better, less emotional. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Knowing I had little choice, I followed him outside. The car smelled like his cologne mixed with coffee, familiar scents that now felt threatening. We drove in silence through suburban streets I'd known my entire life, each turn taking us further from potential witnesses. Finally, he parked at Riverside Park, the place he used to take me to feed ducks when I was little. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Your mother's worried about you, he began, still gripping the steering wheel. She didn't seem worried when I showed her evidence of assault, I replied. Robert sighed deeply. Hazel, you've always been sensitive. Remember when you thought monsters lived in your closet? You were so convinced you made us check every night for months. I was 6 years old, Dad. This is completely different. Is it? He finally turned to look at me. You're seeing threats where there aren't any, making mountains out of molehills. These girls were just playing around and you've blown it out of proportion. Playing around? I pulled up my sleeve, showing him the bruises that had darkened to deep purple. This is from playing. He glanced at the marks, then away. You bruise easily, always have. Remember when you played soccer? Dad, stop. Just stop. I felt tears of frustration building. I know you saw me at the coffee shop. Who was I meeting? Your mother asked me to keep an eye on you. She's concerned you're spiraling, meeting strange people who might encourage these delusions. Delusions. There's a video, Dad, clear evidence of what happened. Robert's hands tightened on the wheel. Videos can be edited, taken out of context. Madison explained everything. The girls were doing a silly initiation thing for their group. You weren't supposed to get hurt. They feel terrible. Madison explained. I repeated flatly. Of course she did, and you believed her. She's my daughter too, Hazel, and she's worked incredibly hard to get where she is. Do you understand what accusations like these could do to her future? The pain in my chest felt like a physical weight. What about my future? What about my safety? No one's saying what happened was right, Robert said carefully. But families handle things internally. We don't air dirty laundry for the world to see. We drove home in suffocating silence. When we pulled into the driveway, both Madison's car and Grace's were there. My stomach dropped. They were all waiting. Inside the living room had been arranged like a courtroom. Grace sat in Dad's recliner, Madison on the couch looking fragile in a cream sweater. They'd even brought in Mrs. Garrett, our neighbor, who was a family therapist. Sit down, Hazel, Grace commanded. I remained standing. What is this? An intervention, Mrs. Garrett said kindly. Your family is concerned about your recent behavior. My behavior? I laughed, but it came out hollow. I was assaulted at a party, and you're concerned about my behavior. Madison dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I've been trying so hard to include her to make her feel part of my life, but she's always been jealous of my friendships, my success. Save the performance, I snapped. I have evidence, video proof of what you and your friends did. Grace stood abruptly. Enough, Robert, tell her. My father cleared his throat. Hazel, your mother and I have discussed this. Your tuition for senior year, your housing, your car insurance. It all depends on family support. The threat hung in the air like poison. If you continue down this path, Grace picked up where he left off. If you insist on spreading lies and trying to destroy your sister's reputation, you'll be doing it without our help. You're blackmailing me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We're trying to save you from yourself, Grace insisted. Delete whatever you think you have. Apologize to Madison and her friends. Get the therapy you clearly need, or find your own way to finish college. Madison looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. I forgive you, Hazel. We all know you're going through something. Maybe it's the stress of senior year or seeing me graduate and start my career. It's okay to feel lost. The gaslighting was so expertly done, I almost doubted myself for a moment. Almost. I need to think, I said finally. You have until morning, Grace said coldly. Delete everything and apologize or pack your things. I walked upstairs on unsteady legs, their voices following me. We're doing this because we love her, I heard Grace say. Of course, Mrs. Garrett agreed. Sometimes tough love is necessary. In my room, I locked the door and pulled out the USB drive. With shaking fingers, I uploaded every file to 3 different cloud services, emailed copies to trusted friends outside the city, and created a detailed timeline of events. As the files uploaded, I opened my banking app. My checking account showed a balance of $843.12. Not enough for rent, let alone tuition. But then I noticed something odd. My savings account, where I'd been putting away money from my part-time job for 2 years, showed recent withdrawals. Small amounts, $50 here, $75 there, but they added up to over $3,000. Transactions I hadn't made. I clicked on the transaction history. Each withdrawal had been made online from IP addresses I didn't recognize, but the timing was suspicious. They started 3 months ago, right around when Madison began complaining about being broke despite her paid internship. My sister hadn't just orchestrated my assault, she'd been stealing from me for months. I took screenshots of everything, adding them to my growing evidence file. The family meeting downstairs continued their voices, a low murmur of self-righteousness. That night, I quietly packed my essential belongings. Laptop important documents, some clothes, the jewelry box with the USB drive. Everything else could be replaced. By morning, they would expect my surrender or my departure. They had no idea what I was planning instead. The evidence was safe backed up in multiple locations. Tyler's documentation combined with my video created an undeniable pattern. Sarah, Emma, and Jessica were ready to speak out. My family had given me an ultimatum: delete the evidence or lose everything. They were about to learn that some things were worth more than their money: truth, justice, and the knowledge that I wouldn't let another girl suffer what I had endured. Tomorrow would bring consequences, but tonight I prepared for war. My alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m. Monday morning. I'd barely slept, spending hours creating the perfect post. Every word had been carefully chosen, every piece of evidence strategically placed. My bag sat by the bedroom door, ready for my escape. At exactly 6 a.m., I hit share across every platform. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. The bathroom assault video played in crystal clear quality. My caption read simply, "This is what happened when I attended my sister's party. My family told me to keep quiet. I won't." I tagged the location, Madison's University, and included relevant hashtags about assault, family abuse, and silencing victims. Then I shut off my phone's ringer and went downstairs to make coffee, counting down until the explosion. It took 12 minutes. Madison's scream from upstairs could have shattered windows. Feet pounded on stairs as she flew into the kitchen, phone clutched in her hand, face contorted with rage. "What did you do?" she shrieked. "What did you do?" Grace appeared moments later, hair disheveled, still in her robe. "What's happening?" Madison shoved her phone at our mother. She posted it. The lying little bitch actually posted it. I sipped my coffee calmly. "I told the truth, that's all." Grace's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and finally volcanic fury as she watched the video. "Delete it now." "No." I said delete it. Grace lunged for my phone on the counter, but I was faster. "It's too late anyway," I said. Last I checked, it had 50,000 views. Probably more by now. Madison was frantically typing on her phone. "My job. Oh God, my job. HR follows my social media." Her voice pitched higher with each word. "You've ruined everything." Robert stumbled into the kitchen, drawn by the commotion. "What's going on?" "Your daughter," Grace spat the words like venom, "has decided to destroy this family." I stood up, shouldering my laptop bag. "No, Mom. Madison destroyed this family when she orchestrated my assault. You destroyed it when you chose to protect her instead of me. I just refuse to be silent about it." My phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket. Messages, comments, shares. The video was spreading like wildfire. "You're done here," Grace said coldly. "Get out of my house." "Already packed," I replied, heading for the stairs to grab my bags. Madison followed me, her perfect composure finally cracking. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Ashley's dad is a lawyer. Brittany's family has connections. They'll sue you for defamation." "Truth is an absolute defense against defamation," I said, quoting what I'd researched. "Everything in that video actually happened." She grabbed my arm as I lifted my suitcase nails, digging in. "I'll destroy you for this. You think this video matters? I'll make sure everyone knows what a pathetic, attention-seeking liar you are. No one will hire you. No one will date you. You'll be nothing." I pulled free from her grip. "I'd rather be nothing than be you." Downstairs, Grace was on the phone, voice shrill. "She's lost her mind. Yes, the video is everywhere. I don't know what to do." I walked past her to the front door. Robert stood there looking lost. "Hazel, please. Think about what you're doing. Your education, your future." "I am thinking about my future," I said, "and it doesn't include a family that values reputation over my safety." "Where will you go?" he asked quietly. "Somewhere, I'm believed," I answered and walked out the door. My friend Lauren lived in an apartment near the university. She'd already texted offering her couch after seeing the video. As I drove there in my beat-up Honda Civic, my phone continued its endless buzzing. At a red light, I quickly checked the numbers. 200,000 views, climbing fast. The comments section was a battlefield. Some called me brave, others accused me of seeking attention. But between the noise, other voices emerged. This happened to me at a Pike party last year. Madison's friends did this to my roommate. I have a similar video but was too scared to post it. By the time I reached Lauren's apartment, my TikTok had 500,000 views. Messages flooded in from reporters, bloggers, influencers. The video had escaped containment, spreading across social media like a virus. Madison called 18 times in 20 minutes. Grace left 6 voicemails that I didn't need to hear to know their content. But among the family fury, a different message appeared. Catherine Chen, verified blue checkmark senior partner at Chen & Associates law firm. I've seen your video and reviewed the evidence you posted. I'd like to offer you legal representation pro bono. No one should be silenced about assault. Please call my office. I sat on Lauren's couch watching the view count climb toward 1 million, feeling the ground shift beneath my feet. In 6 hours, I'd gone from Grace Winter's disappointing daughter to a viral sensation, from silenced victim to public accuser. The notification badges on my apps showed numbers too high to comprehend. My story was no longer just mine. It belonged to the internet now, to every person who saw themselves in my pain, who remembered their own moment of being told to keep quiet. Madison thought she could destroy me. She had no idea what she'd actually unleashed. By noon, the video had 2 million views and climbing. Lauren's small apartment became my command center as the internet exploded with reactions to my story. Every refresh brought thousands of new comments, shares, and messages. "Hazel, you need to see this," Lauren called from the kitchen laptop open on the counter. A news alert flashed across her screen. Preston Marketing Associates investigating viral assault video involving new hire. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You stupid, selfish bitch." Madison's voice was raw with rage. "They called me. HR wants an emergency meeting. They're reconsidering my offer." "Maybe you should have considered that before assaulting me," I replied evenly. "It wasn't assault, God, you're so dramatic. We were just—" I hung up. There was nothing left to say. Lauren helped me sort through the tsunami of messages. Interview requests from major news outlets, podcasters, bloggers. A producer from a national morning show wanted me for a virtual interview tomorrow. "You should do it," Lauren encouraged. "Control the narrative before they do." As we discussed media strategy, my phone buzzed with notifications from Twitter. Madison and her friends had launched their counterattack. New accounts with generic names posted screenshots of old texts claiming I was unstable and attention-seeking. They shared photos from family events where I looked unhappy, spinning stories about my long history of jealousy. One particularly vicious thread claimed I'd been in therapy for pathological lying. "None of this is true," I said, scrolling through the lies. "Doesn't matter," Lauren said grimly. "They're trying to muddy the waters." But then something unexpected happened. Other women began sharing their own experiences. The hashtag Madison's Mean Girls started trending. Sarah Chen, one of Tyler's documented victims, posted her story. I stayed silent for 2 years after Madison Winters and her friends locked me in a closet at a party. They said no one would believe me. Seeing Hazel's courage gives me strength to speak my truth. Emma Rodriguez followed. Then Jessica Williams. Each story added weight to mine, creating an avalanche of accusations against Madison's crew. By 3 p.m., the university had released a statement. "We are aware of serious allegations involving current students. The safety of our campus community is paramount. A full investigation has been launched." Grace's Facebook post appeared an hour later. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. My heart is broken by my daughter's false accusations against her loving sister. Hazel has struggled with mental health issues and attention-seeking behavior for years. We tried to get her help, but she's chosen to lash out at the family who loves her most. Please pray for our family during this difficult time of dealing with a disturbed child. The comments underneath were split. Family friends offered sympathy to Grace, but others weren't buying it. If she's lying, why is there video evidence? 3 other girls have come forward with similar stories. Maybe examine why your daughter felt safer going public than talking to you. Ashley Manning posted her own defense on Instagram, perfectly filtered photo attached. I'm heartbroken that someone I considered a friend would twist an innocent moment of fun into something sinister. I've never hurt anyone in my life. This witch hunt needs to stop. But within minutes, someone posted screenshots of Ashley's deleted Finsta account, showing her bragging about putting freshmen in their place and rating girls by how easy they were to break. Brittany Cole took a different approach, posting a tearful video. I'm so sorry if anything I did was misinterpreted. I had too much to drink that night and don't remember everything clearly. This has been a learning experience. Her half apology only made things worse. Comments flooded in, "You remember enough to know you need to apologize," and "drunk actions are sober thoughts." Chloe Martinez went radio silent, her social media accounts vanishing entirely. As the afternoon wore on, the story jumped from social media to mainstream news. Local channels picked it up first, then national outlets. Viral video exposes alleged pattern of assault among university students, read one headline. My phone rang again. This time it was Catherine Chen herself. "Hazel, I've reviewed everything you posted. The evidence is compelling, but they're going to come at you hard. Are you prepared for that?" "They already are," I said, explaining the social media smear campaign. "That's just the beginning," Catherine warned. "I've seen cases like this. They'll dig into your past, twist every mistake you've ever made, paint you as the villain. But here's the thing, truth has power, and you have 3 other victims ready to corroborate a pattern of behavior." We scheduled a meeting for the next morning. As I hung up, Lauren showed me her phone. A TikTok user with 2 million followers had shared my video with commentary. "This is why victims don't come forward. Look at her own mother calling her mentally ill for speaking the truth. But we see you, Hazel. We believe you, and we're not letting them silence you." The video had 10 million views in 8 hours. Madison's name was trending nationwide, and not in the way she'd dreamed of when planning her perfect post-graduation life. My phone buzzed with one final message for the day. "Tyler saw everything. I'm proud of you. They're panicking. Madison called me screaming threats. I recorded it all. Stay strong." As night fell over the city, I sat on Lauren's couch, watching the internet dissect every aspect of my life and Madison's. By speaking my truth, I'd started something that couldn't be stopped. The backlash was fierce, but the support was fiercer. Tomorrow I would face the cameras and tell my story again. Madison thought she could break me in that bathroom. Instead, she'd created her own downfall, one view at a time. Catherine Chen's office occupied the top floor of a gleaming downtown high-rise. Walking in felt like entering another world, one where my pain could be transformed into justice through legal documents and court proceedings. Catherine herself was nothing like I'd expected. Petite with silver-streaked hair pulled into an elegant bun, she radiated quiet power. Her handshake was firm, her gaze direct. 13 million views as of this morning. She said, gesturing for me to sit, "Your video has become a phenomenon, but viral fame won't win a court case. Evidence will." I handed her the USB drive Tyler had given me. For the next 2 hours, we reviewed everything. The videos, screenshots, documentation of previous assaults. Catherine took notes in precise handwriting, occasionally asking pointed questions. "This is extensive," she finally said. "Tyler Morrison did excellent work documenting patterns of behavior. Combined with your video and the other victims' testimonies, we have grounds for both criminal assault charges and a civil lawsuit." "What happens next?" I asked. "First, we file a police report, criminal charges for assault, battery, and conspiracy. Then we pursue civil action for damages, medical bills, therapy costs, pain, and suffering." She leaned forward. "But I need you to understand something. Once we start this process, there's no going back. They will try to destroy you." "They're already trying," I said. Catherine smiled grimly. "This is nothing compared to what's coming, but I've handled cases like this before. We'll be ready." That afternoon, I sat in a police station interview room recounting every detail of the assault. Detective Maria Santos, a woman with kind eyes and graying temples, took my statement with professional thoroughness. "The video helps immensely," she said. "Clear faces, clear audio. Your sister's friends made a crucial mistake. They thought they were untouchable." "What about Madison?" I asked. "She didn't physically touch me, but she orchestrated everything." "Conspiracy charges are harder to prove, but not impossible. The text messages Mr. Morrison provided show clear planning and intent." Detective Santos paused. "Your mother hasn't filed any reports about your supposed mental health issues, has she?" I shook my head. "She's just saying that on social media." "Good. False reports would be another charge. We'll be interviewing all parties involved, including the other victims who've come forward." As we left the station, Catherine's phone buzzed constantly. "Word's out that we've filed charges. My office is getting calls from reporters and—" She paused, reading a message. "Madison's hired Thomas Fitzgerald." "Is that bad?" "He's expensive and ruthless. Daddy must be paying." Catherine didn't look concerned. "But expensive doesn't mean ethical. I've beaten him before." Back at Lauren's apartment, I found chaos. Reporters had discovered where I was staying. Lauren peeked through the blinds at the news vans below. "This is insane," she muttered, like actually insane. My phone had hundreds of missed calls. I scrolled through, stopping at one voicemail from an unknown number. "Hazel, this is Chloe Martinez. I need to talk to you. Away from Ashley and Brittany. Please. I know I don't deserve it, but please call me back." Catherine had warned me not to speak to any of the defendants without her present, but something in Chloe's voice made me text her Catherine's office number instead. That evening, the local news led with the story. 4 university students charged with assault following viral video. Madison's graduation photo flashed on screen alongside Ashley, Brittany, and Chloe's social media pictures. A text from my father: "Your mother is hospitalized with chest pains from the stress. I hope you're happy." I started to type a response, then deleted it. Grace's manipulation tactics wouldn't work anymore. Another text, this time from Aunt Patricia, my mother's estranged sister. "Saw the news. I'm not surprised. Your mother has been enabling Madison's behavior since childhood. I have stories you need to hear, and documents." Before I could respond, Catherine called. "Chloe Martinez wants to flip. She's offering full cooperation in exchange for lesser charges." "Can she do that?" "Her lawyer seems to think she has information that could bury the others. We're meeting tomorrow morning." Catherine paused. Also, Preston Marketing released a statement. They've rescinded Madison's offer and are reviewing their hiring practices. Your sister's professional life just ended before it began. I should have felt victorious, but mostly I felt hollow. This wasn't about revenge, it was about preventing future victims. As the night wore on, more developments came rapidly. Ashley's parents released a tone-deaf statement about their daughter being victimized by cancel culture. Brittany posted bail but was suspended from her graduate program. Madison remained silent, her social media dark. Then at 11 p.m., the twist nobody expected. Tyler released everything online, all the documentation, every video, every screenshot. His accompanying statement was devastating. I stayed silent while Madison Winters and her friends terrorized innocent women. I was a coward, afraid of false accusations. No more. Here's 6 months of evidence showing a pattern of planned assaults. I'm cooperating fully with law enforcement and encourage other witnesses to come forward. The internet exploded again. Madison's Mean Girls evolved into justice for the silenced. More victims emerged from the shadows, sharing stories spanning 3 years. My phone rang. Grace. "You've destroyed everything," she sobbed. "Your sister's life is ruined. Our family name is mud. Are you satisfied?" "I didn't do this, Mom. Madison did. I just refused to hide it." "She's your sister. Family protects family." "Family doesn't assault family," I countered. "And mothers protect their daughters. All their daughters." Grace's response was a strangled scream before the line went dead. As midnight approached, I sat in Lauren's living room watching the story dominate social media. Catherine texted final instructions for tomorrow's meeting with Chloe and the morning show interview. In just 3 days, I'd gone from a silenced victim to the center of a national conversation about assault family enabling and the power of speaking truth. Madison thought she was untouchable. Tomorrow we'd find out just how wrong she was. Chloe Martinez sat across from us in Catherine's conference room, looking nothing like the confident girl who'd blocked the bathroom door. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled into a messy ponytail. "I want immunity," her lawyer stated flatly. Catherine didn't blink. "Depends on what your client offers." Chloe's hands trembled as she spoke. "Madison has files on everyone. Blackmail material. She calls it her insurance policy. Photos, videos, documented mistakes. She's been collecting dirt since freshman year." "Including on you?" I asked. Chloe nodded miserably. "That's how she controlled us. Ashley had a DUI she covered up. Brittany cheated on her entrance exams. And me," she swallowed hard. "Madison knew about my mom's immigration status, threatened to report her if I didn't play along." "You assaulted people because of threats." Catherine's voice was ice. "I'm not making excuses," Chloe said quickly. "What I did was wrong. But Madison made us feel like we had no choice. She picked targets, planned attacks, told us exactly what to do, said it was just teaching lessons to girls who needed to be put in their place." The story that emerged over the next hour painted Madison as a calculated predator. She kept encrypted files on a hidden cloud server, documented every indiscretion, every vulnerability. She'd built her own criminal empire through blackmail and fear. "I'll testify," Chloe promised. "Tell everything, and I'll help you access the files if I get a plea deal." As lawyers negotiated terms, my phone buzzed. Aunt Patricia had arrived at Lauren's apartment. I'd never met Patricia. She'd been excommunicated from the family when I was 10, spoken of only in whispers and warnings. But the woman who greeted me looked remarkably like an older, wearier version of my mother. "You look just like Grace did before Madison broke her," Patricia said, studying my face. We sat at Lauren's kitchen table as Patricia unpacked a box of documents and photo albums. "I need you to understand something," she began. "Madison's behavior didn't start in college. It started when she was 8. The first document was a school incident report. 8-year-old Madison had pushed a classmate down the stairs for winning a spelling bee. Grace had threatened to sue the school for defamation. That little girl needed 11 stitches, Patricia said. Grace convinced everyone it was an accident. More documents followed. Madison caught poisoning a neighbor's cat at age 11, expelled from private school at 13 for orchestrating brutal harassment of a teacher. Each time Grace intervened, made problems disappear, moved Madison to new schools. "I tried to intervene," Patricia explained. "Suggested therapy consequences, anything. Grace accused me of jealousy of trying to harm her gifted daughter." "Why didn't anyone stop her?" I asked. "Your mother was convincing. She'd grown up poor, clawed her way to respectability. Madison was her golden ticket to the life she'd dreamed of. Smart, beautiful, charming when she needed to be. Grace couldn't see the monster she was creating." Patricia showed me photos of family gatherings. In every one, Madison stood at the center while I lingered at edges, already learning my place. "The final straw came when Madison was 15, Patricia continued. "She accused my son, Daniel, of inappropriate behavior. Complete fabrication, but Grace backed her up. Nearly destroyed Daniel's life before security footage proved he wasn't even there when Madison claimed it happened." "What did Mom say when the truth came out?" "That Daniel must have deleted the real footage. She chose Madison's lies over video evidence." Patricia's voice grew hard. That's when I realized Grace wasn't just enabling Madison. She was complicit. The story Patricia painted was one of systematic protection of a predator. Every time Madison escalated, Grace covered it up. Every victim was silenced, paid off, or discredited. "I kept records of everything," Patricia said, sliding a thick folder across the table. "Police reports that got buried, witness statements that disappeared, payoffs to families, Your mother refinanced the house twice to clean up Madison's messes. My phone rang. Catherine. Chloe's deal is approved. She's given us access to Madison's blackmail files. Hazel, it's worse than we thought. She has compromising material on professors, administrators, even local politicians. This isn't just assault, it's an extensive criminal operation. As Catherine explained the legal implications, I felt the full weight of what we'd uncovered. Madison wasn't just a mean girl who went too far. She was a lifelong predator, protected by a mother who chose ambition over truth. Patricia squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you for doing what I couldn't, breaking the cycle. That evening, I did the morning show interview from Lauren's apartment. 5 million viewers watched as I calmly recounted my assault and the cover-up that followed. My family chose to protect my attacker because she was their daughter too, I said. But being family doesn't excuse assault. It makes it worse. The interviewer asked about my mother's claims of mental illness. The only thing wrong with me is that I refuse to be silent. I responded, That's not mental illness, that's mental health. As the interview ended, my phone exploded with notifications, but one stood out: a text from Robert. I found something in the garage. Your mother's been hiding more than you know. We need to talk, without her knowing. Patricia, still watching the interview replay, looked at me knowingly. Grace always kept secrets in that garage. Time you learned them all. The assault in the bathroom had been just the visible tip of an iceberg that went deeper and darker than I'd imagined. Tomorrow, I would meet my father and uncover whatever Grace had hidden. Madison had built her empire on secrets and fear. Now, piece by piece, we were tearing it down. Robert waited for me in the parking lot of an abandoned shopping center, his car hidden behind a defunct pharmacy. He looked haggard, aged 10 years in 5 days. When I slid into the passenger seat, he handed me a banker's box without speaking. Inside were financial documents dating back 15 years. Loan applications, credit card statements, wire transfers. My mother's secret financial life laid bare in devastating detail. I never handled the money, Robert said quietly. Grace always said she was better with finances. I trusted her. The papers told a story of progressive desperation. It started with Madison's first private school expulsion, $10,000 to make a lawsuit disappear, then $20,000 for the next incident, $50,000 to silence the family whose daughter Madison had hospitalized in high school. Look at this. Robert pointed to a remortgage document. She forged my signature, twice. Took out $150,000 in equity loans. For Madison, I asked. Payoffs, lawyers, bribes. One payment of $30,000 to a university admissions consultant who guaranteed Madison's acceptance, despite her sealed records. His voice cracked. We're 6 months from foreclosure, Hazel. Your college fund, our retirement, everything gone. I photographed every document, sending them directly to Catherine's secured server. The financial fraud alone would be criminal charges. There's more, Robert said. Yesterday, after you went public, people started calling. Madison's other victims looking for compensation. Turns out your mother had them sign NDAs in exchange for money. But those agreements were based on fraud since I never consented to the payments. My phone buzzed. Catherine, just received your files. This changes everything. Your mother could face serious jail time. As we sat in silence, Robert finally broke. I failed you. I chose comfortable blindness over protecting my daughter. When you showed me that video, part of me knew it was real. But accepting that meant accepting what Madison was, what Grace had done, what I'd allowed. Why help me now? I asked. Because I watched your interview, heard you say families should protect each other. You protected future victims while we protected a predator. He wiped his eyes. I'm testifying against both of them if needed. We drove separately to the police station where Detective Santos waited with federal investigators. Financial crimes across state lines had elevated the case. That evening, the story exploded in new directions. A Twitter thread by an investigative journalist exposed Madison's blackmail network, calling it the most extensive extortion scheme ever run by a college student. Screenshots of Madison's secret files flooded social media, prominent figures caught in compromising positions, all under Madison's control. Ashley Manning's family issued a panicked statement distancing themselves. Her father, the lawyer who'd threatened to sue me, was in Madison's files receiving bribes. Brittany's family fled town after their daughter revealed Madison had videos of her father with his mistress. At Lauren's apartment, I watched the empire crumble in real time. Madison's mugshot appeared on every news outlet. She'd been arrested at a motel 40 miles outside town trying to flee with a car full of hard drives and cash. Grace was arrested at the hospital, charged with fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The footage of her being led out in handcuffs while screaming about ungrateful children became instantly viral. My phone rang, Madison calling from jail. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You destroyed everything," she hissed. "My life, my future, everything I worked for." "You destroyed yourself," I replied calmly. "I made something of myself. I was going places. You were nothing content to live in my shadow. I tried to teach you your place, and this is how you repay me. My place was never beneath you, Madison. You just needed me there to feel powerful." She laughed bitterly. "You think you've won? You have no idea what I'm capable of. When I get out—" "You threatened the wrong people," I interrupted. "Those files you kept the FBI found evidence of extorting a federal judge. You're not getting out for a very long time." Silence, then quieter. Mom always said I was special. "You are special, Madison. Specially cruel, specially evil, and now specially prosecuted." I hung up on her, screaming. As the night wore on, more victims came forward. The count reached 37 women across 3 states, each story similar, targeted for excellence, assaulted for confidence, silenced by fear or money. Aunt Patricia arrived with Chinese takeout and wine. Grace called me from jail, first time in 5 years. Want to know what she said? I nodded, though I dreaded hearing it. She blamed me, said if I'd minded my own business, none of this would have happened. Still protecting Madison, even now. We sat in contemplative silence until Patricia spoke again. "You did something I never could. You didn't just escape the cycle, you shattered it completely." "It doesn't feel like victory," I admitted. "It shouldn't. This isn't about winning, it's about truth, justice, preventing the next victim." She raised her glass. To the daughter Grace never deserved. As midnight approached, I sat on Lauren's balcony watching the city lights. In 1 week, I'd lost my family but found my voice, lost my home but found my truth, lost my sister but found 37 others who understood. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more charges, more unraveling of the web Madison had spun. But tonight, for the first time since that bathroom assault, I felt something besides fear or anger. I felt free. The girl who'd been pushed against bathroom tiles told she was nothing threatened into silence. She was gone. In her place stood someone, harder, stronger, unbreakable. Madison had tried to teach me my place. Instead, she'd taught me my power. The courtroom smelled of old wood and fresh anxiety. 6 weeks had passed since that first viral video, and now I sat in the witness stand, facing the preliminary hearing that would determine if criminal charges against Madison and her accomplices would proceed to trial. Catherine had prepared me thoroughly. "Stay calm, stick to facts, don't let their lawyers rattle you," she'd advised. But knowing and doing were different things. When Madison sat 20 feet away in an orange jumpsuit, her usually perfect appearance replaced by stringy hair and hollow eyes. "State your name for the record," the prosecutor began. "Hazel Marie Winters," I said clearly. For the next 2 hours, I recounted every detail of the assault. The prosecutor played the video now entered as State's Exhibit 1. Even seeing it again made my skin crawl, but I kept my composure as Madison's lawyer, Thomas Fitzgerald, approached for cross-examination. "Miss Winters," he began with practiced condescension, Isn't it true you've been jealous of your sister's achievements your entire life? No, I answered simply. You weren't envious when she got into a better university, when she received prestigious internships, when she was offered a six-figure starting salary. I was proud of her accomplishments until I learned they were built on the suffering of others, I replied. Fitzgerald tried every angle, my mental health, my academic performance, my social life, each question designed to paint me as unstable, vindictive, delusional. But Catherine had prepared me for this. You claim this video shows assault, Fitzgerald continued, but couldn't it equally show college girls playing a prank that got out of hand? Being shoved against a wall while 3 people threaten you isn't a prank, I said firmly. It's assault. Yet you didn't report it immediately to police. My mother told me not to make a scene. I was raised to trust my parents' judgment. I've learned better since then. When other victims testified via video link, the pattern became undeniable. Sarah Chen spoke from California, where she'd transferred schools. Emma Rodriguez testified from her therapist's office. Jessica Williams broke down describing her assault, but powered through. The most damaging testimony came from an unexpected source, Madison herself, via recorded jailhouse phone calls she didn't know could be used against her. I don't care what that judge says. Her voice filled the courtroom. Those girls needed to learn. Hazel especially. Acting like she was better than me, like she deserved respect. I showed them all their place. The judge's decision was swift. Sufficient evidence exists to proceed to trial on all counts. Given the severity of charges and risk of flight bail is denied. Madison's scream of rage followed me out of the courtroom. Outside media swarmed. I'd gotten better at navigating the cameras offering brief statements before Catherine whisked me away. The clip that went viral this time was my response to whether I regretted destroying my family. I didn't destroy my family. I revealed what it really was, a system designed to protect a predator at any cost. The destruction was already there, hidden under lies and payoffs. That evening, I returned to my new reality. After the financial fraud was exposed, the family home went into foreclosure. I'd moved into a small studio apartment near campus, paying rent with money from a victims fund Catherine had helped establish. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Robert had moved in with his brother temporarily. He'd texted earlier, "Proud of you today, you were unshakable." Our relationship remained complicated. His testimony had helped build the financial fraud case against Grace, but years of complicity couldn't be erased overnight. We were working on it in family therapy, a different kind than Grace had threatened me with. A knock interrupted my evening. Lauren stood outside with Thai food and updates. Madison's friends flipped, she announced. Ashley and Brittany both took plea deals, testifying against Madison in exchange for probation and community service. And Chloe, already serving her community service at a women's shelter, she seems genuinely remorseful. Lauren paused. Unlike your mother. Grace's case was progressing separately. Charged with fraud, forgery, and conspiracy, she faced up to 20 years in prison. Her lawyer was pushing for a mental health defense, claiming she'd been manipulated by her own daughter. She called me from jail again, I admitted. Lauren's eyes widened. You didn't answer. I did. She wanted me to lie, say I'd forged those documents to frame her. When I refused, she said I was no daughter of hers. Good riddance, Lauren said firmly. We spent the evening planning for what came next. The documentary filmmaker had started production with release planned to coincide with the trial, speaking engagements at universities about recognizing and reporting assault, the nonprofit Catherine helped establish to support victims of family-enabled abuse. You've become an icon, Lauren said, the girl who brought down her own sister to protect others. I never wanted to be an icon, I replied. I just wanted to be believed. My phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. My name is Amy Chen. My older sister has been bullying me for years, getting worse since she started college. She's planning something big for my 18th birthday party next month. Your story gave me courage to speak up. Thank you for showing me it's possible to break free. I wrote back immediately, You're not alone. Document everything. Tell trusted adults. You deserve to be safe. As night fell, I stood on my tiny balcony looking out at the city lights. In 2 months, I'd gone from a silenced victim to a voice for the voiceless. The cost had been everything I'd thought I had: family, home, security. But what I'd gained was invaluable truth, justice, and the knowledge that my pain had purpose. The trial would come. Madison would fight with everything she had left. Grace would paint herself as the real victim. The media circus would continue. But I would stand strong, surrounded not by blood family who'd failed me, but by chosen family who'd believed me. Supported not by toxic loyalty, but by truth and justice. Madison had tried to break me in that bathroom. Instead, she'd forged me into something unbreakable. And that girl Amy, facing her own sister's cruelty, she wouldn't have to fight alone. None of us would, not anymore. The call from Samantha Richards came at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday 3 months after the assault. I didn't recognize the name, but her voice trembled with familiar pain. "You don't know me," she began, "but I was Madison's best friend in high school. I need to tell you something about your sister, something worse than what's already come out." We met at a diner outside the city, Samantha choosing a corner booth where she could watch the door. She looked nothing like Madison's current friend group, soft-spoken, plainly dressed, haunted eyes that spoke of old trauma. Senior year of high school. She started without preamble. "Madison threw a party while your parents were away. She drugged me. I woke up, compromised. Photos everywhere. She said if I told anyone, she'd release them." My coffee turned cold as Samantha detailed years of torment. Madison had used those photos for constant blackmail, forcing Samantha to do her homework, take tests for her, even steal from other students. "When I finally threatened to go to the police, your mother showed up at my house with $50,000 cash and a non-disclosure agreement. Said it was for my emotional distress, but made it clear the photos would surface if I didn't sign." "You have proof?" I asked, though I already believed her. Samantha pulled out a folder, the NDA with Grace's signature, bank records showing the payment, medical records from the morning after when she'd gone to the ER alone and afraid, and screenshots of messages from Madison over the years, taunting her with reminders of what she held. "I thought I was the only one for so long," Samantha whispered. "Then I saw your video and realized Madison never stopped. She just got better at it." I immediately called Catherine, who arranged for Samantha to give a formal statement. This evidence pushed the investigation into federal territory, crossing state lines with criminal intent, interstate commerce in illegal materials. That afternoon brought another surprise. 12 of Madison's former high school classmates had formed a Facebook group, Madison Winters Survivors. Story after story emerged of bullying, blackmail, and assaults stretching back to middle school. The pattern was consistent and chilling. But the biggest shock came from an email marked urgent from Thomas Fitzgerald's law firm. Madison's own lawyer wanted to meet. Catherine accompanied me to his downtown office, both of us wary of tricks. But Fitzgerald looked defeated, his expensive suit somehow diminished. "I'm withdrawing from your sister's defense," he announced. "What I'm about to share is technically privileged, but ethics demands disclosure." He slid a flash drive across the table. "Madison tried to hire someone to harm you, from jail, using contraband phones and cryptocurrency accounts your mother set up. I cannot and will not be party to witness tampering through violence." The room spun. Even after everything, learning my sister had tried to arrange my murder felt surreal. "We've alerted authorities," Fitzgerald continued. "She'll face additional charges. I've practiced law for 30 years, defended terrible people. But your sister," he shook his head, "she's not just criminal, she's evil." That evening, Robert came to my apartment for our weekly dinner. He'd been sober for 2 months, attending therapy, working to understand his role in enabling the dysfunction. When I told him about Madison's murder plot, he broke down completely. "I knew she was troubled," he sobbed, "but trying to kill you. My baby girl wanting to murder my other baby girl." The weight of his failures crushed him. How did I let it get this far? We sat and shared grief for the family we'd never really had. But from that grief came unexpected strength. Robert decided to testify not just about the financial crimes, but about the entire pattern of enabling. "I'll tell them everything," he promised. "Every excuse I made, every sign I ignored. Maybe other parents will recognize themselves and intervene before it's too late." The media attention intensified with each revelation. True crime podcasts dissected the case. Cable news shows debated nature versus nurture. The documentary filmmaker called Weekly with updates interviewing dozens of Madison's victims. Support came from unexpected places. A federal prosecutor who'd been in Madison's blackmail files reached out grateful I'd exposed the network before she could use it. A senator whose daughter had been assaulted in college publicly thanked me for my courage. Even some of Grace's former friends contacted me admitting they'd seen warning signs but stayed silent. One morning, I woke to find a package on my doorstep. No return address, but inside was a leather journal and a note. "From those of us who couldn't speak out, your voice gave us hope. Document everything. Stay strong. Justice is coming." The journal's first page had 37 signatures, one for each known victim. As I prepared dinner that evening, the news announced breaking developments. The FBI had uncovered a wider network of college-aged predators using Madison's blueprint for blackmail and control. Her insurance policy method had spread to other universities, creating cells of abusers, protecting each other through mutual destruction. My phone rang. Catherine sounded energized. The federal prosecutor wants to use this case to establish new precedents for cyber extortion and coordinated assault. Madison won't just be a criminal, she'll be a cautionary tale in law books. "What about Grace?" I asked. "Negotiating a plea deal. 15 years if she allocates fully. Your father's testimony made her defense untenable." 15 years. My mother would be elderly when released. The woman who'd prioritized reputation over truth would spend her final productive years in prison. That night, I updated Amy Chen, the girl whose sister was planning something sinister. She'd recorded conversations, documented threats, gathered evidence. Her parents believed her. Police were involved. Her sister had been stopped before she could become another Madison. "You saved me," Amy wrote. "You saved so many of us." As I prepared for bed, I looked at the signatures in the leather journal. 37 women who'd suffered in silence until one bathroom assault was caught on camera. Tomorrow, there would be more revelations, more victims finding their voices, more predators realizing their actions had consequences. Madison had built an empire of fear. Now, brick by brick, survivor by survivor, we were building something stronger, a foundation of truth that would protect future generations from predators hiding behind family protection. The girl who'd been shoved against bathroom tiles had become a catalyst for nationwide change, and we were just getting started. The trial began on a cold February morning, 10 months after the assault that changed everything. Media trucks lined the courthouse streets while protesters held signs reading, "Justice for the silenced" and "Believe survivors." Inside Courtroom 6, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Madison sat at the defense table with her new court-appointed attorney, her designer clothes replaced by conservative suits that couldn't hide her hollow appearance. Months in jail had stripped away her polished veneer. Grace sat in the gallery's front row out on bail for her own charges, wearing the martyred expression she'd perfected. We hadn't spoken since her arrest, but her eyes burned with hatred whenever they found me. The prosecution opened with devastating efficiency. Assistant District Attorney Carmen Rodriguez laid out the case like a horror story. 37 victims over 6 years, systematic targeting, elaborate cover-ups funded by stolen money and parental enabling. "This isn't a case about college pranks gone wrong," she told the jury. "This is about a predator who weaponized privilege and family protection to terrorize women who threatened her ego." When they played the bathroom assault video, several jurors visibly recoiled. The crystal-clear audio captured every threat, every cruel laugh, every moment of my terror. But this time, watching it felt different. This time, it was evidence in the pursuit of justice. Madison's defense attorney tried painting her as a victim of affluenza, too privileged to understand consequences. He blamed Grace's parenting social pressures, even suggested Madison had been manipulated by Ashley and Brittany. Then came witness testimony. I testified, first spending 6 hours on the stand across 2 days. Every detail of the assault, the cover-up, the family meeting where I was threatened. The defense tried to shake me, bringing up old grievances, suggesting mental instability, even implying I'd orchestrated everything for fame. "You've gained quite a following from this situation," the defense attorney suggested. "Book deals, speaking engagements. Seems profitable to be a victim." "I never wanted to be a victim," I responded firmly. "I wanted to be safe. When my family chose my attacker over my safety, speaking out became my only option." Sarah Chen testified next, describing her hours locked in terror. Emma Rodriguez broke down, recounting her parking garage assault. Jessica Williams spoke with quiet dignity about the semester she'd spent afraid to leave her dorm. But the most damaging testimony came from Madison's former accomplices. Ashley Manning, in a plea deal, admitted everything. Madison picked the targets. She studied them, found their weaknesses, said it was about maintaining social hierarchy. She enjoyed the planning almost as much as the execution. Brittany Cole revealed the blackmail network. "We all had to participate or be destroyed. Madison had something on everyone. She called it mutually assured destruction." Chloe Martinez delivered the killing blow. "Madison kept trophies, videos of crying victims, photos of injuries. She'd review them when she felt stressed, said it reminded her of her power." The prosecution presented financial evidence over $500,000 spent covering up Madison's crimes, funded by fraud and theft. They showed the escalation pattern from childhood bullying to attempted murder for hire. On day 7, Samantha Richards took the stand. Her testimony about the high school drugging and years of blackmail had several jurors in tears. When she identified the NDA Grace had made her sign paid for with stolen money, the case transcended simple assault into decades-long criminal conspiracy. Robert testified on day 9. "My father, worn down by guilt and recovery, told the truth about years of willful blindness. I chose comfortable lies over my daughter's safety. I failed as a father. I'm testifying now because the truth needs to be heard, no matter how painful." The defense's case crumbled quickly. Character witnesses refused to testify after learning the full scope of charges. Madison's therapist, subpoenaed by the defense, instead confirmed that Madison showed signs of antisocial personality disorder with sadistic tendencies. Then Madison insisted on testifying against counsel's advice. For 3 hours, she alternated between denial, blame-shifting, and barely concealed rage. She claimed the victims deserved it, that she was maintaining necessary social order, that weak people needed to learn their place. When shown videos of her crimes, she critiqued her own technique. The moment that sealed her fate came during cross-examination. "Do you feel remorse for your actions?" the prosecutor asked. Madison smiled the same smile from that bathroom video. "I feel remorse that I got caught. These girls needed correction. I provided a service, including trying to arrange your sister's murder. Hazel betrayed family. In some cultures, that's punishable by death." She looked directly at me. "She destroyed everything I built. If I could do it again, I'd be more thorough from the start." The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order while Madison's attorney desperately tried to control the damage. But it was too late. She'd shown the jury exactly who she was. Closing arguments were formalities. The prosecution painted Madison as a calculated predator, enabled by family money and maternal protection. The defense mumbled about rehabilitation and second chances. The jury deliberated for exactly 2 hours and 43 minutes. On count 1 assault in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On count 2 criminal conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. On count 3 extortion, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all 47 counts. The maximum sentence possible, 25 years to life. No possibility of parole for 15 years. Madison would be middle-aged before she could even apply for release. As court officers led her away, Madison turned to stare at me. No remorse, no recognition of wrongdoing, just pure, concentrated hatred. Grace wailed dramatically until the judge threatened contempt charges. Outside, the courthouse survivors gathered. Women who'd been silenced, threatened, assaulted, and ignored. We stood together as the prosecutor announced the verdict to the media. "This case sends a clear message," she said. "Privilege is not protection from consequences. Family enabling of criminal behavior will be prosecuted, and survivors who speak truth will be heard." That evening, Aunt Patricia hosted a quiet celebration, not for Madison's downfall, but for the precedent set. Universities nationwide were implementing new policies. Laws were being drafted to address family-enabled assault. The documentary would premiere next month, educating millions about recognizing and reporting predatory behavior. Amy Chen sent a video message. Her sister was in custody. Multiple victims had come forward, and their parents were in therapy, learning how they'd enabled the abuse. "Your courage created a ripple effect that saved countless women. Thank you." As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the 18-year-old girl who'd walked into her sister's party. Trusting family meant safety. That girl was gone, replaced by someone who understood that sometimes protecting others means exposing those closest to you. Madison would spend decades in prison. Grace faced her own trial next month. The family home was gone sold to pay restitution. Everything I'd known had crumbled. But from those ashes rose something powerful, a network of survivors, a legal precedent, and the knowledge that one voice refusing to be silenced could change everything. Justice had been served, and it tasted like freedom. The acceptance letter arrived on a Thursday morning in September, 1 year and 5 months after the assault. Columbia University School of Social Work, full scholarship from the Phoenix Foundation, a fund established specifically for survivors of family-enabled abuse who wanted to help others. I sat on my tiny balcony reading the letter 3 times before it felt real, a new beginning funded by strangers who believed in turning pain into purpose. Robert called to congratulate me. We'd built something resembling a relationship over months of family therapy and his continued sobriety. He'd remarried 6 months ago. Susan, a kind kindergarten teacher who treated me like the daughter she'd never had. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," he said. "Columbia's lucky to have you." "Thanks, Dad," I replied, the words still feeling foreign but less forced than before. Life had found a rhythm. I finished my undergraduate degree at the local state university, transferring credits and taking summer classes to graduate on time, despite everything. My small apartment near campus became a haven decorated with plants and photos from the new life I'd built. The speaking engagements provided enough income to live modestly while helping others. Universities, conferences, survivor groups I'd spoken to thousands about, recognizing abuse patterns and the importance of believing victims. Each event ended with someone approaching me privately, sharing their own story, finding courage to speak their truth. Catherine had become more than my lawyer. She was a mentor and friend. We'd successfully sued Madison's enablers at the university, who'd ignored previous complaints. The settlement funded legal support for victims who couldn't afford representation. The documentary had premiered to critical acclaim and millions of viewers. Breaking the silence. The Madison Winters case won 3 awards and sparked nationwide conversations about family complicity in abuse. I'd watched it once, reliving the trauma through interviews with dozens of victims, then put it away. That chapter needed to close for new ones to open. Tyler Morrison had become an unexpected ally. He'd transferred to Berkeley studying law with plans to become a victims' rights attorney. We exchanged emails monthly, 2 people bonded by witnessing evil and choosing to fight it. "Your courage inspired mine," he'd written. "I'll spend my career making sure other victims have the support we didn't." The other survivors had found their own paths to healing. Sarah Chen was in medical school, determined to become a trauma-informed physician. Emma Rodriguez had started a nonprofit teaching self-defense to college women. Jessica Williams wrote a blog about recovery that helped thousands. Even Chloe Martinez had transformed her guilt into action, working full-time at a domestic violence shelter while finishing her psychology degree. Her testimony had been crucial in convicting Madison, and she'd spent every day since trying to atone. Grace's trial had ended with a plea deal, 12 years for fraud conspiracy and obstruction of justice. I didn't attend the sentencing, but Robert told me she'd blamed everyone but herself until the end. She'd written me letters from prison that I'd burned unopened. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Madison served her time in maximum security after attacking another inmate who disrespected her. She'd received an additional 5 years for that assault. Reports from inside suggested she'd learned nothing, still believing the world owed her deference. She'd be nearly 60 before possible release her youth and potential rotted away by her own cruelty. One afternoon, while packing for the move to New York, I found the leather journal with 37 signatures. Now it held over 200 names, women who'd found courage to speak about their own assaults, their own Madisons, their own enabling families. A knock interrupted my reminiscing. Lauren stood at my door with champagne and Chinese takeout. "To new beginnings," she toasted. "And to the girl who changed everything by refusing to stay quiet." We spent the evening planning my move, her visit to New York, the future that once seemed impossible. Lauren had been my rock through everything, the friend who'd offered her couch when family failed, who'd held my hand through testimony, who'd celebrated every small victory in rebuilding. "You know what the best part is?" Lauren asked. "You're not running to Columbia, you're choosing it. There's a difference." She was right. This wasn't escape, it was evolution. That night, I received a message that would reshape my future again. Dr. Patricia Hernandez, Columbia's Dean of Social Work, had seen the documentary and followed the case. "We're developing a new program focused on family-enabled abuse and institutional betrayal. Would you consider being our first student consultant? Your lived experience could help shape curriculum that trains social workers to recognize and address these specific patterns." I read the message twice, feeling the weight of opportunity, not just to learn, but to ensure future social workers understood what teachers, counselors, and family members had missed in Madison's victims for years. "Yes," I typed back. "I'm interested." As September turned to October, I gave my final speaking engagement before the move. 500 University of Michigan students packed the auditorium. I told my story one more time, but now it felt different, less like reliving trauma, more like teaching prevention. During the Q&A, a young woman stood up, voice shaking. "My older brother has been hurting me and my friends. My parents say I'm being dramatic. What do I do?" The auditorium fell silent. I looked at her, 19, maybe 20, holding herself like she might shatter, and saw myself before that bathroom assault. "You document everything," I said firmly. "You find adults who will listen, teachers, counselors, police if necessary. You protect yourself and your friends, and you remember that family protecting an abuser makes them complicit, not loyal. Your safety matters more than their comfort." She nodded, tears streaming. After the event, she approached with 2 friends. They'd been recording incidents for months, waiting for someone to tell them they weren't crazy. I connected them with Catherine's firm and local resources. 3 weeks later, I read about their brother's arrest. 5 victims had come forward. Their parents faced obstruction charges for attempting to destroy evidence. Another cycle broken. As I finished packing my apartment, I found the outfit I'd worn to Madison's party shoved in a closet corner. The shirt still had faint marks from being grabbed. I held it for a moment, remembering the girl who'd worn it, who'd trusted family meant safety. Then I threw it in the donation box. That girl had served her purpose. She'd survived long enough to become someone stronger. Columbia awaited. A new city, new program, new chance to transform trauma into change. I'd study clinical social work with a focus on trauma and family systems. Maybe one day I'd be the professional who recognized the signs everyone else missed. The girl who'd been cornered in a bathroom, told she was nothing, ordered to stay silent, she was gone. In her place stood a woman with a purpose, a voice, and a future dedicated to ensuring no one else would be told their pain didn't matter. Madison had tried to teach me my place. Instead, she'd taught me my power, and I would spend the rest of my life using it. Graduation day at Columbia arrived with perfect May sunshine. 2 years of intensive study, clinical placements, and research had transformed me from survivor to advocate to professional. As I adjusted my cap and gown, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The program Dr. Hernandez and I had developed was now a full curriculum track. Family-enabled abuse and institutional betrayal recognition and intervention had enrolled 45 students this semester. My thesis on identifying predatory behavior patterns in family systems was being published in the National Social Work Journal. Hazel Winters, the dean, called. I walked across the stage to receive my Master of Social Work degree summa cum laude. In the audience, Robert and Susan cheered alongside Aunt Patricia and Lauren. My chosen family, the ones who'd stood by truth over blood. Catherine had flown in for the ceremony. From victim to expert witness to published researcher, she said afterward, hugging me tight, "You've redefined what recovery looks like." 6 months later, I stood in my office at the Phoenix Center for Trauma and Recovery, the nonprofit I'd helped establish, with settlement funds and donations from supporters. We provided free therapy, legal advocacy, and emergency housing for victims of family-enabled abuse. My desk held 3 frames: my Columbia diploma, a photo with the first graduating class from our training program, and Amy Chen's wedding invitation. She'd graduated college, become a victims' rights lawyer, and found love with someone who understood her journey. Her sister remained in prison, but Amy had built a life beyond survival. A knock interrupted my morning paperwork. "Your 9 o'clock is here," my assistant announced. A young woman entered, probably 19, carrying herself with the familiar fragility of fresh trauma. She'd called our crisis line after her brother's fraternity. Brothers had assaulted her while he watched and laughed. Her parents wanted her to let boys be boys. "I'm Dr. Winters," I said gently, still getting used to the title. "You're safe here. Whatever you share stays between us unless you want to take action. You control the narrative now." As she told her story, so similar to mine yet uniquely hers, I took notes and validated her experience. By session's end, she had resources options, and most importantly, someone who believed her without question. This was my life now. 3 days of clinical practice, 2 days training social workers and law enforcement to recognize family abuse patterns. Evenings were my own, unless emergency cases arrived, which they often did. Tyler Morrison had graduated from Berkeley Law and joined Catherine's firm. Together, they'd established the Winters Protocol, a legal framework for prosecuting family members who enabled abuse. It had been used successfully in 12 states so far. Sarah, Emma, and Jessica had all found their own healing paths. Sarah worked in emergency medicine, specially trained for treating assault victims. Emma's self-defense nonprofit had chapters at 30 universities. Jessica had become a renowned researcher on trauma recovery. We met quarterly survivors who'd become warriors, checking in and supporting each other's work. Even Chloe had found redemption in service. She'd earned her doctorate in psychology and specialized in treating perpetrators of abuse, trying to break cycles before they solidified. We'd never be friends, but I respected her commitment to preventing others from becoming like Madison. Speaking of Madison, she'd made news again last month. Another prisoner had filmed her giving a jailhouse interview where she maintained her innocence, claimed I'd orchestrated everything for fame, and promised revenge upon release. The video went viral, but not how she'd hoped. Comments universally condemned her, with many sharing their own Madison stories. Grace had been released early for good behavior, but struggled to find housing or employment. Last I'd heard, she lived in a halfway house working minimum wage, still posting on Facebook about being a victim of an ungrateful daughter. I felt nothing. Not hatred, not pity, just emptiness where a mother's love should have been. Robert and I had dinner monthly. He'd celebrated 5 years of sobriety by establishing a scholarship for social work students who were abuse survivors. Susan had become the mother figure I'd never had, remembering birthdays, celebrating achievements, offering unconditional support. "Family isn't blood," Susan had said at Thanksgiving. Family is who shows up when showing up is hard. My personal life had slowly healed too. Trust came hard after betrayal so profound, but therapy and time had helped. I'd dated cautiously, been honest about my history, and found that the right people saw strength where others might see damage. Marcus Chen, no relation to Amy, was a fellow social worker who specialized in children's trauma. We'd met at a conference, bonded over shared professional passion, and slowly built something real. He understood night terrors triggers the weight of others' pain. He also understood joy, hope, and building a future undefined by past trauma. "You know what I love about you," he'd said over dinner last week. "You turned the worst thing that happened to you into a life helping others avoid the same. That's not just survival, that's alchemy." The Phoenix Center had treated over 300 clients in our first year. We'd trained 500 professionals to recognize family abuse patterns. Our crisis line had saved 17 lives that we knew of, probably more. But the work that meant the most happened in quiet moments. The teenage girl who called crying because her sister's friends had cornered her at a party, but she'd remembered my TED Talk about documentation and escaped with evidence. The mother who recognized her enabling patterns and chose her victimized child over her predator child. The social worker who spotted signs everyone else missed because of our training. Each small victory mattered. Each broken cycle was a future protected. On the 5-year anniversary of the assault, I received a package with no return address. Inside were letters from women around the world who'd found courage to speak up after seeing my story. 500 handwritten thank yous from survivors who'd become thrivers. The last letter was different, familiar handwriting though I hadn't seen it in years. "Hazel, I know you'll never forgive me and I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that I finally understand what I did. Not just to you, but to every girl I hurt. Prison gave me time to think, and thinking hurts. I was a monster raised by a monster who chose being special over being human. I'm sorry. It's not enough, but it's true. Don't respond to this. I don't deserve your words. Just know that you won. Not because I'm in prison, but because you showed me what strength actually looks like. Madison." I read it twice, then fed it to the shredder. Madison's awakening, real or manipulated, wasn't my concern. My concern was the girl sitting in my waiting room gathering courage for her first appointment. The training seminar next week, the legislative hearing next month, the lives still to be saved. That night, Marcus and I had dinner with Robert, Susan, Patricia, Lauren, and Catherine. My chosen family gathered around a table, laughing, sharing, celebrating nothing more than being together. A toast. Catherine raised her glass. To the girl who refused to stay silent, who turned pain into purpose, who proved that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth. We clinked glasses as the sunset painted the sky gold. Somewhere a girl was being told to keep quiet about assault. Somewhere else she was remembering my story, Amy's story, countless stories of women who'd spoken up and survived. Somewhere cycles were breaking. The bathroom assault had happened 7 years ago. The girl who'd been cornered, threatened, and silenced was gone. In her place sat Dr. Hazel Winters, trauma specialist, survivor advocate, and living proof that the worst things that happen to us don't have to define us. They can refine us. Madison had tried to teach me my place, small, silent, scared. Instead, she'd launched me toward my purpose. And that purpose would ripple outward, touching lives and breaking cycles for generations to come. 10 years had passed since that night in the bathroom, a decade of pain transformed into purpose, trauma alchemized into triumph. As I stood before an audience of 1,500 at the National Conference on Family Violence, I felt the weight of every moment that had brought me here. Family-enabled abuse thrives in silence. I said, my voice steady and clear. It depends on our willingness to protect reputation over truth, comfort over justice. Today I want to talk about breaking that silence. In the front row sat my team from the Phoenix Center, now expanded to 12 locations nationwide. We'd treated over 10,000 survivors, trained 50,000 professionals, and changed countless lives. The Winters Protocol had become federal law, making it a crime to knowingly enable or cover up family member abuse. My presentation showed statistics, case studies, intervention strategies. But what resonated most were the stories sanitized for privacy, but powerful in their truth. The audience leaned in, recognizing patterns in their own cases, their own communities. Prevention starts with believing survivors, I continued. It grows through education and accountability. It succeeds when we choose courage over comfort. Afterward, during the book signing for my newly released Breaking the Cycle, A Guide to Recognizing and Addressing Family-Enabled Abuse, a familiar face appeared in line. Madison. She looked nothing like the golden girl who'd terrorized dozens. Prison had aged her beyond her 35 years. Gray-streaked her hairlines mapped her face, and her eyes held something I'd never seen before: genuine humility. "I won't take much time," she said quietly. "I just needed to thank you in person." Security tensed, but I waved them off. "Thank you for what?" "For forcing me to face who I was. Prison gave me time, but your courage gave me a mirror. I've spent 8 years in therapy understanding the monster I became." She placed a folder on the table. "I've been working with researchers, letting them study me, understanding how someone becomes what I was. Maybe it'll help prevent another me." I looked at the folder: clinical studies, brain scans, psychological profiles. Madison had become a cautionary tale, willingly dissected to understand predatory behavior development. "I don't expect forgiveness," she continued. "I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you didn't just save my victims. You saved me from myself. I'll spend whatever time I have left trying to earn the oxygen I breathe." She turned to leave, then paused. "Mom died last year, alone. Still blaming you. I think that's the real tragedy. She never understood that you loved her enough to stop her." Madison disappeared into the crowd, and I never saw her again. Later, I learned she'd been released on parole, living quietly and volunteering with a program that worked with young people showing early signs of antisocial behavior. Whether her redemption was genuine or performed, she was contained and contributing rather than destroying. The conference continued with panels, workshops, and connections that would fuel another decade of work. But that night in my hotel room, I video called Marcus and our twins. Mommy. 3-year-old Hope and Justice filled the screen with gap-toothed grins. "Hi, my loves. Are you being good for Daddy?" Marcus appeared behind them, his smile warming me across the miles. Define good. No major disasters, only minor chaos. We'd married 4 years ago in a small ceremony surrounded by chosen family. The twins came 2 years later, born into a world where their mother's worst moment had become a catalyst for change. They'd grow up knowing their worth, their voice, their power. "Home tomorrow?" Hope asked. "Home tomorrow," I promised. After they signed off, I stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Somewhere out there, a girl was being hurt by someone who should protect her. But somewhere else, someone who'd trained in our program was recognizing the signs. Somewhere, a survivor was finding their voice. My phone buzzed with a message from Amy Chen. "Argued the Henderson case today. Used the Winters Protocol to convict an enabling mother. Another cycle broken. Thank you for showing us how." Messages like these came daily now. Prosecutors using our framework, therapists applying our techniques, survivors finding hope in shared experiences. The ripple effect had become a tsunami of change. The next morning, I delivered the conference's closing keynote to a standing ovation. But what moved me most happened afterward. A young social worker approached with tears in her eyes. "I was assaulted by my brother's friends 5 years ago," she whispered. "My family told me to keep quiet. Then I saw your story. It gave me courage to report, to heal, to become someone who could help others. I start my doctoral program next month focusing on sibling abuse dynamics. You saved my life." Stories like hers were why I kept going when the work felt heavy. Every survivor who became a helper, every family that chose truth over comfort, every professional who learned to see what others missed, they were the true victory. Flying home, I thought about the girl in that bathroom 10 years ago, terrified, betrayed, alone. If I could tell her one thing, it would be this: your pain has purpose. Your voice will free others. Your courage will echo through generations. Marcus met me at the airport with the twins. As I hugged my family, my real family chosen and created through love, rather than blood, I felt the profound gratitude that comes from a life fully lived. "How was the conference?" Marcus asked. "Powerful," I said, "but this is better." That evening, after tucking the twins into bed with stories of brave princesses who used their voices to save kingdoms, I sat in my home office. The walls held degrees, awards, photos with survivors who'd become warriors. But the most important item was a simple frame containing 37 signatures, the original victims who'd started it all. My computer showed emails from around the world, requests for training consultation partnership. The work would never end because the need would never fully disappear. But each intervention, each education, each broken cycle brought us closer to a world where assault wasn't enabled by those meant to protect. A final email caught my eye, from the Department of Justice. "Dr. Winters, we're establishing a national task force on family-enabled abuse. Would you consider serving as chair?" I smiled, thinking of the bathroom tiles that had witnessed my lowest moment. From victim to survivor to advocate to expert to leader, the journey had been brutal, beautiful, and everything between. "Yes," I typed, "I'm honored to serve." As midnight approached, I closed my laptop and joined Marcus in bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new cases, new chances to turn pain into purpose. But tonight I was simply a woman who'd refused to stay silent, surrounded by love I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Madison had cornered me in a bathroom thinking she could break me. Instead, she'd forged me into something unbreakable. And that unbreakable spirit had spread to thousands of others, creating an army of survivors who refused to let family loyalty silence truth. We were the generation that said enough. We were the voices that broke the cycle. We were proof that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is survive, speak, and teach others to do the same. The girl in the bathroom had found her voice, and she would never be silenced again. Thank you for joining me on this journey from silence to strength. If this story resonated with you, if you've faced similar betrayals or know someone who has, I want you to know you're not alone. Have you ever been told to keep quiet about something that hurt you? Have you found the courage to speak your truth, despite family pressure? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories of courage and triumph. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone in their struggle. Together we can break the silence that enables abuse and build a world where truth is valued over comfort. Remember, your voice matters, your pain is valid, and you deserve to be believed. Until next time, stay strong, speak your truth, and know that you are worthy of respect and justice.